what happens in these movies. They've bored me for so long, but this really just achieved a new level in like just the primary thing I was feeling while watching it was apathy. I don't care about anything that's happening, and that to me is the worst thing about a piece of media. If you can watch it and take nothing away from it, then it has utterly failed. Like even when they went to the onsen, it was like they were having fun and there were shenanigans, but there's a place for shenanigans. It's like, this is the 5th movie. This is the second to last film in the series. We should be getting to a climax, but it felt like nothing that happened in this film was any more or less important than anything that we've already seen. I will say the battle between Meiko and JESMON was pretty cool. It looked good. The action was really nice. But that's like, is this the big final battle? Is there, something beyond it? I don't know. Who are the players? What do they want? We still don't know why Alphamon is there. Hackmon shows up and he's giving that big monologue. And it's like, I don't care. I really don't care. And that's the sad thing, because Digimon was always very good at an emotional core to their storylines. People remember the first series fondly because it tackled storylines like Izzy's relationship with his adopted parents, and Matt and TK and their parents being divorced, and how they both dealt with that in very different ways. In fact, there was a moment, this is kind of skipping ahead a little bit, I guess, but one of my favorite moments in the whole movie was when the kids are at school and they're calling their families to let their families know that they're okay. And we see TK presumably on the phone with his mom, and Matt's on the phone with his dad. Matt hangs up. TK offers the phone to Matt, and Matt just shakes his head. And there was so much communicated in that one gesture with no dialogue. And I just like, moments like that. We needed more moments like that. Like after, all these years, there's still that strain on the relationship between Matt and his mom. And it's the lack of the human element that the story is really missing. Because homeostasis and Yggdrasil are all so far beyond anything that we've explored. Like, this is deep into the Digimon lore, unless you're like a super fan who's very familiar with everything about how the digital world works. And I confess that I'm not. I don't know what the full story of Yggdrasil and homeostasis are. It didn't bother me in the first series when homeostasis spoke to the kids through Kari. It was kind of interesting, but again, it was framed around the argument that Matt and Ty were having and their insecurities of why were they chosen, and so for it to just come in and almost that is the thing, like they're almost treating homeostasis like it could care less about these kids. And that's not what we want. Like, the kids were chosen, and for Kari suddenly to be like, oh, the digital world hates us. We're a nuisance. It wants us expelled. Like, how did you come to that conclusion? Like, it felt so emo. If I could call it that. But I didn't even think the kids were aware of homeostasis' name. Like, is there anywhere in the anime that they refer to homeostasis by name? I'm genuinely curious. Because I wasn't aware how much the kids are familiar with exactly how the world works. They just know that, they were called and they helped to save it. And they formed a deep connection with these creatures. And so for them to suddenly call homeostasis by name, I was like, I didn't even know that you knew the name. And for them to be like, oh, Yggdrasil, and who is the real enemy? Who are we really fighting? It's like, are you even familiar enough with these concepts to be betrayed by them. You know what I'm saying? It's just, and the purpose of the digital world, you know, as far as I understood it from the original series, was to coexist in harmony. Like, the digital world and the real world are supposed to exist side by side. That was the point of 02, was showing how they came together at the end and mutually helped each other, and everyone in the world had a Digimon partner, and the reason there was imbalance was that dark forces were corrupting the digital world and trying to force a wedge between humans and Digimon when there wasn't supposed to be one. So why now are they forcing this, like, oh, the humans are polluting the digital world and the digital world wants us destroyed, and it feels forced. It feels like it doesn't have anything to do with the original series, and nothing about the conflict in these movies feels grounded. Or very loosely grounded in the lore as we've explored it up till now. And that's what's bothering me most, and that's what's distancing me, I think, most from it. I've seen people, you know, I'm not a fan of Mei, obviously, and I've seen people defend her on Tumblr saying, oh, people only hate her because she's a new character, and, you know, I think I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I don't hate Mei because she's a new character. I think a new character would have been a fantastic idea, especially to expand the world and introduce new Digidestined. It's the fact that she is treated as the special snowflake. Her Digimon is, you know, the key to the destruction of the real world somehow, and is so much more powerful than, you know, anything else, and therefore needs to be destroyed. And it's, I don't even have a problem with Mei as a self-insert character, because why not? Why not bring a character in who the audience can identify with? It's like, we want to go along with these kids on an adventure, but then when you give her this, like, god tier Digimon that's, like, separates her from the other kids, it's not the entryway into the adventure that a self-insert character is supposed to be. It's supposed to be someone that we can identify with. I'm not putting it into words well, but the one time I felt like it worked was when the kids were, you know, still in the digital world, and they were in the cave, and Meiko was lamenting how she didn't think she was worthy to be a chosen child. She didn't think she was a worthy partner. And all the kids around her kind of rallied around her and was like, we were chosen for a reason. We're the Digidestined. You know, we're all in this together. Don't feel like you have to be alone. It was a little cliche, but I bought it because these are problems that all the other chosen kids have faced, so they can help her with that. Like, that's more of what Meiko's character should have been, instead of this, like, oh, I've got this Mary Sue Digimon who, I'm sorry, looks like a fan OC. She's so over designed. I can't stand Meikomon's design. Yeah, that's the one time that I felt like, okay, I actually, you know, Mei's character is working for me. The only time I genuinely enjoyed this movie was when they went to the school and they had they were telling scary stories. Because it was, again, it was light shenanigans, but it was all very character based, and like, you know, Joe telling the scary story where his worst fear is a bad grade. Of course, that's, you know, that's again kind of cliche, kind of underwritten, but it's still Joe, like, noticeably Joe. And there were moments in that, like when Mimi stands up for Meikomon and says, there is no such thing as a Digimon that doesn't deserve to live. And I just love Mimi so much. It's moments like that. It's like the characters are just being pushed to the side for story that nobody cares about. And so when they all come together at the school and they're camping out. It felt very nostalgic because, this is what Digimon used to be. They had to hide from their parents and stay at the school, and it was just full of nice little details, like Matt stimming, like acting like he's playing the guitar when he gets scared so that he has something to calm himself down, and like little details like that were really great. But there was way too little of it. I think that scene lasted for 5 minutes, if that, and then we had more May angst in the courtyard, which I'm sorry it was incredibly generic. I can't find an entryway into her plight at all. Like, I think about it was Determination, right? It was one that focused on Joe and Mimi, and I think about that scene on the roof where Joe and Gomamon have that fight, and Gomamon says, fine, I'll leave you alone then, and he drops his mochi and he starts crying, and it's like, how far we've fallen from that. If only there was anything as effective as that in Coexistence. Which, by the way, that name, Coexistence, going back to the whole point of, like, the digital world and the real world are meant to live side by side. You'd think, for a movie that with that name, you'd think that would have been the focus of the story, right? But no, they didn't really talk about that at all. And it's a common trap, and I try very hard not to do this in my own reviews, but it's not fair criticism to say that you didn't like something because it's not what you expected it to be. Like, don't judge something for what you wanted it to be, judge something for what it is. However, when Try was first announced and it was first being talked about, I do remember them saying, and I can't remember the original post that it was in, but people who were translating the Japanese announcements said that Try was supposed to be about what happened between, the finale of 02 and the epilogue of 02, showing the transformation of the world leading up to that epilogue that we see, where everyone knows about the digital world and everyone has a partner. And that got me really excited because I wanted to see that transition. Like, how did the world get to be what we see at the very, very end of 02? And it even kind of started that way with in Reunion, with Agumon coming back and all this real world destruction of, like, of course, how's the government going to react? And there's going to be backlash and bad press but we've moved so far away from even that. I guess there's elements of it, like people are afraid of Digimon again, and the government is involved, and the police are chasing after the kids because they have Digimon with them. But again, it's too little. It's too little of that and too much of vague, kind of epic sounding talk about homeostasis and Yggdrasil. Again, I have not gotten that deep into Digimon lore to be like, oh yes, I know what these concepts are and how they work and what their purpose in the digital world is. So I don't care. And that was the majority of this movie, and that's why I was so damn bored. Again, I was originally going to say, I feel like nothing's happened. It's not that nothing's happening. It's that I'm not sure how important everything is. Like, okay, so this was supposed to be, what's her name? Ophanimon? Ophanimon was on the posters. Like, all the posters have had, a pair of kids with their Mega Digimon, and that's how we knew who was going to be, focused on in the movie. And the posters for this one had Meicomon's ultimate form and, Ophanimon on it. So it's like, okay, Kari. That's fine. How much was Kari really in this movie? Like, she had that moment where she pushed back against homeostasis, and that was interesting. But what became of that? Like, there's a moment when, when Kari is in her, locked in her own mind. And again, it's like, it never bothered me that homeostasis spoke through Kari. I never saw Kari as a Mary Sue, because I thought the idea of Kari having a deeper connection with the forces of the digital world was actually kind of interesting, but it needed to be developed, and they're not developing that idea. They're just using it again and expecting it to be interesting. I like this idea of Kari pushing back against homeostasis. Like how scary is that, to be kicked out of your own mind and have to fight for control of it again? That moment looked so interesting, of Kari talking to herself. But what really bothered me about it was the way it was framed. Because you got Kari's body in the middle of the group, being possessed by homeostasis, and then Kari, the second Kari over here, essentially saying, "Get out of my head," and then the rest of the kids are gathered around them in a circle. May is off to the side. She's separated from the rest of the group. And because of the way that shot was framed, I thought there was something significant about it. May was going to be the one to snap Kari out of it. Again, maybe this is just me overanalyzing, and it's the film student in me who's that framing is significant. May takes all the confidence that her friends have been trying to pour into her over the past few movies and brings it back, and does a Lee and slaps Kari back to her senses, and it didn't happen, which made me think, what is the point? Why were May and Kari featured on the poster? Nothing happened between them in this movie. Their Digimon fused, and it was freaky as hell. So I guess we could say that this was a dark Digivolution, which, again, it's one of those elements from the original series that they're just kind of repeating without developing it any further. I liked the idea of dark Digivolutions, because I like the idea of the kids kind of misusing their powers or corrupting what their powers are supposed to be. And with Skull Greymon, and then later with Megidramon, they were both really cool, and both very different ways that the kids corrupted their Digimon. And Kari's was definitely different from either of those two, which is good. I'm just not sure. It happened so suddenly. First of all, Ophanimon's Digivolution was that. I don't think we even got a sequence, an animated sequence for her. She just popped suddenly on screen. And again, Kari having the crest of light, one of the most powerful crests in existence. It makes sense that if that power was corrupted, it would be extremely bad. So it doesn't bother me that a really powerful, evil Mega resulted. It just bothers me that it kind of happened out of nowhere, and suddenly Ophanimon is evil, and suddenly Ophanimon and Meikomon are fusing, and it's this really evil Digimon that's going to spell bad things for the world, and I don't care, because the design was just, oh man, it was. I'm not going to say it looks out of place for Digimon, because the higher level Digimon are kind of over designed, and a lot of them get pretty crazy, and a lot of them are really out there, but I don't know, it just bothered me. It looks Oseous, this pale white, vaguely female, vaguely sexy, but also kind of horrifying thing with giant demon wings with these horns that curl in. It looked ridiculous. And Tai can't be dead, because if they really are if they're leading up to the 02 epilogue, then we know that Tai lived in the end, but I don't even know if that's their end goal anymore. Another thing, I know I keep harping on the 02 kids, and a lot of people don't care about the 02 kids, and they're telling people, get over it. It would be one thing if the writers of Tri decided they didn't want to talk about the 02 kids. That's fine. Why show them getting killed at the beginning of the movies. If they wanted to just ignore 02 altogether, I honestly would have preferred that rather than, oh, we're gonna tease these kids getting killed at the beginning of these movies, but we're not gonna talk about them again, and their friends don't seem to care about them anymore, even though they kind of do. And Matt shows up at Ken's house saying that he was really worried, and yeah, right. It feels insulting, especially because in this movie it felt like they teased a lot of things that were tangentially related to 02. The kids staying overnight in the school, 02 being set in the real world as opposed to the digital one. The school was like the main base of operations, and they spent a lot of time there. I know it's not the same building, but still, it's like they're staying at the school, and Izzy's in the computer lab. It's like, And then there's the Dark Ocean. What's her name? I can't remember her name. She's looking for Tabermon, and she ends up in the freaking Dark Ocean, and those Scubamon, Divermon are there all around her, just looking at her all creepy, and it's like, ugh. And Jedi puts on his Ken disguise again, and the final battle in this movie is in a desert-like landscape that looks like the one where the 02 kids fell in the first movie. And they put all these elements in the film, and yet there's still no talk about them or what happened to them and where they are. And it is infuriating to me. There's one film left. One. I have no idea how they're going to get to the climax, explain everything, and try to make it matter in a way that ties up. And then tell us, what happened next. Like, what happened after. What is going to be the ultimate conclusion. I'm still incredibly disappointed that it's not been this, like, smooth lead up to what the world is like, in the future. And it's just a bunch of stuff that we don't care about, that hasn't mattered up till now. They're trying to force all these dramatic scenes between Nishijima, I can't remember his first name, and the girl, I can't remember her name, and there's all this backstory for May, and I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, you have to give backstory to these characters in order to make us care. You have to spend time on them in order for us to care. But who does have a lot of backstory already? The 8 kids from Adventure and the 6 kids from 02. There's like hundreds of episodes of backstory from them that we already care about. You could save yourself so much time. Just, take out the teacher and then what's her name and May, and just build on what you already had. No? Okay. I don't know what else to say. I have no interest in seeing what they're gonna do with it. At this point, it's like I'm watching it just because it's there, and I want to know how they're gonna end it for no other reason than I want to know how they're gonna end it. I'm not looking forward to it at all. This is by far the worst part of Try yet. I have been extremely disappointed, but this reached an all-time low. So please let me know what you thought in the comments below. Let me know what, if anything, you're looking forward to in the final movie. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Take care.